Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So by now you should see that rebelling against God is rebelling against me. We see in Proverbs 4, I believe it's 4:18, it says, "The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter to the full light of day." In Psalm 19, it says it says the sun is the symbol of the bridegroom who is the champion. And we see in Ecclesiastes, it says that wisdom benefits those who see the sun. So it's this divine martial art, top martial arts, martial champion wisdom, right? Martial is marital scrambled. Christ is the bridegroom. Exodus 15:3 says the Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. In the New Testament, it says he who sees the Son sees the Father. What have you. So when we look at Proverbs 16, right, and we look at verses 10 through 15, and we look at Proverbs 17, and we go, 11 through 15 or 16 or so, we're going to see that it's very similar what they're saying, and that it's connected. And that's a pattern in Proverbs, that sometimes the numbers are connected. Even Numbers is even a book in the Bible. So you're going to see that verse 10 lines up to verse 10, verse 11, Proverbs 16 lines up with verse 11 in Proverbs 17, and that these things connect in various ways, right? So in Proverbs 16:10, it says, "The lips of a king speak as an oracle, and his mouth does not betray justice." In different versions, it says God's verdict is on the mouth of a king. Okay, a divine verdict, what have you. Honest scales and balances belong to the Lord. All the weights in the bag are of his making. So if the king is actually made by God, okay, the scale you're using to see who the king is actually honest, right? The way, the truth, and the life. Then that king is really the king, right? The word making even has the word king in it, as does the word striking and risking and talking, right? Talking. Kings detest wrongdoing, for a throne is established through righteousness. Okay? Kings take pleasure in honest lips. They value the one who speaks what is right. So God's scales are honest, and the king takes pleasure in honest lips. A king's wrath is a messenger of death, but the wise will appease it. When a king's face brightens, it means life. His favor is like a rain cloud in spring. So, again, the clouds that Christ is said to come back on are figurative. The dark part below is for the wicked, right? It's the wrath of the king. The light touching the top of it, right? The sun is for the people that the king chooses, right? The people who rally and obey God through me. Okay, the sun is a symbol of God's relationship to the bridegroom, me. So it's figurative, and there's so many scriptures to that effect. I mean, that's a story for another day. I've made many videos about that. Psalm 18:42, Jeremiah 4:13, Jeremiah 13:24 connects to it as well. The wind and the clouds are connected. One of them that's extremely important is Isaiah 30, right? Isaiah 30 verses maybe 26 or so through the end. Okay, it talks about how God striking with cloudbursts through his son is what it's getting at. And it says, his arm coming down with raging anger and consuming fire with cloudbursts, thunderstorm, and hail. Okay, so now let's look at verse 16, right? How much better to get wisdom than gold, to get insight than silver. Let's look at Proverbs 17 now. So you got to be honest, you got to have the insight, what have you. Wisdom. You can't just kind of be an airhead reading the Bible like the countless sheep. That's the broad way. That's why it's called a dumb broad, right? So Proverbs 17, verse 9. Whoever would foster love covers over an offense, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends, right? So they don't love God enough to give me my rightful place, so they're separating God from the people, and they're supposed to be close friends. A rebuke impresses a discerning person more than 100 lashes a fool. Okay, so some people think that I should just kiss everyone's ass. They're not reading their Bible. They're not using their head. They don't have wisdom or insight. Evildoers foster rebellion against God. The messenger of death will be sent against them. Better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool bent on folly. And the Bible talks about the day of the Lord, right? It'll be like someone ran away from a lion only to run into a bear. Okay, and again, it's saying the bear robbed of her cubs. It has implications on marriage, right? The bridegroom, Marshall, is marital. So I'm cheated out of my rightful place, which means all the women of the world didn't present themselves to me, so I'd have a suitable helper that is gorgeous, is healthy, that's everything I'm looking for in a woman. So I've been robbed of my cubs, and she's been robbed of her cubs, and God has been robbed of children in that sense, and the world has been robbed of children. As a result, they're kind of bears and lions in their own right, and they go after each other. And I made a video about that where I break down, the beast in Revelation and the qualities it has: the leopard, the bear, the lion, the horns, what have you. Evil will never leave the house of one who pays back evil for good. Starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam, so drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. Of course, figuratively speaking, the world turns into chaos and desolation, okay? And a burning lake of sulfur is spread out through the world. It becomes the top layer of hell, okay? So they breached a dam, but it's not the water of life that comes out. It's like lava. It's a burning lake of sulfur and boiling excrement. Acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, the Lord detests them both. So when you don't acquit me when I'm innocent, okay, I'm innocent, I've told the truth, I deserve to have my rightful place. So you've condemned me to being cheated out of my rightful place when you don't rally and obey God through me as individuals, as groups, okay? And the Lord detests it, right? You've acquitted the guilty and you followed them, and you've condemned me to being alone and shunned by cheating me out of my right to lead. And the Lord detests them both. There's a reason why this is here, right? It's right by verse 11, where it says, evildoers foster rebellion against God. The messenger of death will be sent against them. There's various applications to these scriptures, and these are key applications. That's why in the chapter before, it talks about how the throne is established. It talks about the king's power and his favor and his wrath, okay? And in this chapter, the next chapter, it talks about rebellion and it pisses off God, and that, you're condemning the innocent and so on and so forth. It goes on to say, why should fools have money in hand to buy wisdom when they're not able to understand it? So the money of the rich who try to, elevate each other, okay, is worthless. Wealth is worthless in the day of wrath, is what it says. Okay. And we go down to verse 24. I know it's not on the screen. Some of these verses aren't on the screen. A discerning person keeps wisdom in view, but a fool's eyes wander to the end of the earth. So you're supposed to scramble to obey God, to look for the proof of God, the signs of God, the order of God, the commands, and the chain of commandments. Okay, and the chain of commands. Now, they cause me to slip on my words. I don't speak in codes. Okay, that's some bitch-ass shit. I walk in the light. I don't use wordplay like people wear aprons who aren't honest with you and so on and so forth. I tell the truth. You can hear in the majority of my videos I kind of struggle to speak, even though what I'm saying requires a great amount of intelligence and wisdom and insight, especially when you're working alone and you're fumed and poisoned all the time. That's an example of what you want to see. You don't want to see some fancy presentation with all kinds of visual aids and all kinds of people supporting them. Okay, those people who do that are government bootlickers. People who are accepted in the communities and are allowed to speak. It's called community stalking for a reason. Because only if you sold your soul to the extreme and you're a complete worm are you allowed to have some kind of position in the community where everyone embraces you and kisses your ass and things of that nature, right? Open and shut. Okay, they fume me and poison me and try to make it so I sound gay. Okay, when it's against my religion to be gay, when I've been shunned by women I've been looking for a long time, you can imagine that what they're doing is extremely evil, and only the sickest and most racist whites, Jews, and LGBT people in the governing class could be responsible. And these are people who have lots of worldly power and lots of network, who don't understand that it's a fate far worse than death, far worse than all the other fates there ever were, to persecute me, to order the persecution of the most righteous person ever. That is a sad, sad life. All the money in the world isn't worth it. And certainly if you have to play some kind of childish occult game, with a bunch of rapists and pedophiles and assorted mass murdering trash, it's a very despicable and silly and sick and childish life that they live.